All right, let's just go right ahead and get started. All right, guys, welcome to this brand new episode of Client Interviews. Today we have Brian Choi. Man, this is such a crazy transformation, dude. From where you were, you look like a different person. You were much more. I don't know. It's just a different vibe about you. I don't think it's just a haircut. There's much more to it. So to give you guys a highlight, Brian joined us in August of 2020. It's October of 2021 right now. And I remember back when Brian joined, he was struggling around 0 to 5K a month mark, the highest he'd ever hit in his business. And, he had his own coaching business. He was jumping from niche to niche, trying out different things. You just got out of the military, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
Yeah, and he had this very hard work mentality, brute force, massive action, grind mentality, no sleep, just work. And, he just kept hitting his head on the wall. And now Brian is in a completely different place. He's doing consistent 10K months. He's in a niche that he really, loves to be in and works with clients he wants to work with. And on top of that, he actually has the freedom to travel and experience the world. He's no longer grinding all the time, but he's working smart. And because, his emotions and his feelings he's completely passionate about it. And, he doesn't force himself to do things he doesn't want to do. It comes much easier to him. So Brian, I'm going to stop yabbering and let you introduce yourself a little bit about you, where you're from, what you do, and give us more context.
No, Claude, it's an honor. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you do for the community and for people and all that. It's crazy because I remember watching one of these when I was about to join, and when I just joined the program. I remember seeing these success stories. I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like, no way. It's just unreal. Like, it makes no sense. Makes no sense, right? How these people's lives completely change, especially because I was very analytical, very logical person. And I was thinking like, but don't they need the tactics and don't they need like all that? Like how, I don't understand how this all works. And now I see now though. So like you said, Quasi, when I joined Reality Mastery, highs I hit 5K. And then after that, I remember hitting 2 consecutive $0 months. So very similar to your story, what you talk about all the time in your older videos. And I couldn't figure out why, because I was doing the same things in my business. I was using the same messenger process with the outreach. I was using the same content. I was using the same sales call process, but it's weird. And it's almost like the more I tried, I remember you described it as like hitting a wall and like not getting a reward on my efforts. And that's exactly how it felt. I guess I'm like pushing, but it's just like, I'm not breaking through. So at that point, I actually heard about you before from 2 of the people who are also in the program, Bastian and Simone. Both of them are actually my business mentors. And they were talking about this guy named Quasi, right? And so sometimes I'd get bored and look up his videos, but like, I don't really get it. This guy's talking about law of attraction and like, why is he like, like talking, I don't get it, right? But one video kind of resonated with me because you were talking about the exact things I was going through at the time, which was you hit 5K a month. And then when you hit your job, I think, you hit $0 the next month.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I'm going through right now. And so I was kind of intrigued. So I joined your Facebook group. And then you hit me in the DMs. And I was like, nah, I don't have the money for that right now, bro. Like, I can't. But you're like, hey, if there's a will, there's an answer. So we can at least like figure it out. I was like, I don't think we can, but we did anyway. You woke me up at 5 a.m. and but we had that conversation, and I remember after, and like you said, we somehow figured out a way to me to join the program, and I was so scared because I remember literally in my bank account I had about like $200 left, probably less than that. And I've done a lot of those investments before in programs where I almost hit 0, but like that was like the lowest I've gone, I think. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna pay off the rest of the program. Somehow I did, like you said. And fast forward to now, about a year now. It's kind of crazy to look back because I was able to hit 10K months, and then I kept I guess like leveling up my identity and the level I'm playing at. Where before joining the program, I was charging about $1,500. Now I'm selling 10K packages. And later this year, I'll be selling 20K packages. So it's crazy. It's almost, and everything in between. We can get into all that. But I just want to say appreciate you for having me on, and it's been life changing so far.
That is insane. So you went from charging 1,500 to like 10K, 20K packages.
Yeah.
So that basically means you need less clients to just make the amount of money that you want to make. And you
100%.
also get to focus on the clients that you're working with.
100%. So I think that was another thing too, in terms of guys, because I know in the in the program and you talk about identity a lot. I was kind of thinking like what do I want, right? Because there are people who kind of want to work with a lot of clients, make a lot of sales. I just realized because I was working inside of a 7-figure coaching company before, and I was an appointment setter and also a coach inside of the company. I remember at one point I was managing like 50 people, like 50 clients all by myself, and I was like I can't, I feeling so burnt out, and I'm like, I don't want that anymore. So when I started my business, I become clear and clear. I started charging selling 5K offers, and then I keep leveling up. Now I'm selling 10K deals. Now later this year I'll be selling 20K deals. And so it's great because I'm not as overwhelmed trying to book as many sales calls. I'm not as overwhelmed trying to juggle all these clients, but I can actually, like you said, focus on clients and produce bigger results. So it's been great.
That's brilliant. So let's rewind all the way back to August 2020, even before that. What was life like before that?
Oh man, such a deep question, Quasi. What was life like? I think the biggest biggest things for me was it was like a turmoil. I remember, it's kind of weird to kind of think back, right? Because like sometimes you don't even remember. But for me, it was like an emotional turmoil, like a chaos inside of my own body, and I didn't even know. What I meant was that I was a slave to my emotions. I think that was one of the biggest life-changing things I got away from the program, which is more intangible, right? It's not really quantifiable, like put a number on it. It's not like a amount of money I make, but it was more life-changing because I remember having binge eating problems, for example.
I remember that. I remember you coming on the call and getting a big revelation when we actually discussed that part. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And that was because I was using food, junk food specifically as an outlet to let my emotions out because I didn't know how to go about that because I was suppressing and repressing my emotions as getting pent up like you talk about all the time. I think you really hit the nail on the head on your videos because those are really spot on because my emotions are getting like pent up, whatever situation may be. Let's just say I get into an argument with a friend or like these little things, right? Things not going my way in life. And then I try to like suppress it and like push it down, try to like, try to contain it inside of me or something like that. And then you can't do that forever. It's kind of like a volcano where like it'll just like explode everything, right? And so that's what would happen with food, where I'll just use this. I remember like just sitting down and gulping down like 5,000 to 6,000 calories worth of food in one sitting.
That's insane.
And that is not healthy. And then the next day I would feel guilty. So I'd starve myself and go to the gym for 3 hours. Next day I would feel hungry and repeat the cycle over and again. I remember feeling so broken. It's like something's wrong with me or something. Those things. And also I was the guy where you talk about surrender and effort. I was very heavily cited to the effort part.
Yeah.
Being in the military and being taught from the personal development, well, the traditional personal development space where take massive action, 10x, work till you die or some things like that, right? And I think there's a time and place for it, maybe, but I didn't have the surrender part, and that was where things were going not ideal. Like you talked about, you told me, is that I was putting too much effort into the things in my life, like my business, for example. And that's one of the reasons why my revenue plummeted, and it seemed like things were going crashing down. So those are some of the things, some situation I was at before joining the program.
Got it. And how did your entrepreneurship journey begin? And I remember, I think I saw this on your profile, and this is something I resonate with a lot too. You mentioned that entrepreneurship is the biggest test of personal development. So I kind of want you to elaborate on that a little bit, but also like give us a little bit of context on why you got into entrepreneurship in the first place, you know, out of the military.
That's a good question. And it's a weird question, 'cause I feel like sometimes like people have these like different reasons for becoming an entrepreneur. Like they wanna change the world, they want to impact a million people, they want to feed the starving kids. That was not the case for me. I just knew that I was too, how do I put it? I'm too much of a wild card, to put it nicely, for a regular traditional job. Because I don't like following rules. It's
So what happened in the military if you didn't like following rules?
very good question. That's why I I had some troubles. Let me just put it that way in the military in the beginning, at least. I knew I had to shut my mouth and just follow orders. It was very difficult, obviously. It's just like I'm like, why do I need to listen to these people? Like for me, example, like if I'm listening to a mentor, like I'll shut up and do it because like there's a like I respect them, right? I want the results that they've been able to produce or be able to help other people produce. But in the military, I was like, I don't know these people. Like, why do I need to follow?
Yeah.
But in order for you to survive, just shut up and do it, or otherwise, non-ideal things happen.
Yeah.
But in the military, that's what I realized. That was the biggest moment when I realized, like, man, I never want to follow orders from people that I do not respect.
Mm.
And that was a pretty big turning point. I knew I was gonna do something like weird, like I thought I was gonna be a YouTuber, like something online, just because that was
K-pop
the
star.
environment. What's that?
K-pop.
Hey, we could do that's one way. That's one way. Yeah, but yeah, because when I was 19, I actually got introduced to this whole personal development space. I first got introduced to the whole dating space. With and you know, I learned all these things like meditating and this positive habits. It was kind of like a weird dating community where they didn't just teach you how to talk to girls, but also like these weird good things in your life, like meditating, reading books, and
Mm-hmm.
they also talked about business. So that was my first gateway because they talked about Gary Vee. There's a lot of things I agree with Gary Vee. There's a lot of things I don't agree with Gary Vee. Either or, he was great because he was a gateway drug for me to find out about this whole space of you can make money online.
Right.
And you can kind of do what you're passionate about and use your skills. I was like, interesting. And I didn't really know how exactly, but when I was in the military, what really helped was that as I seasoned as a more veteran military member, I started having more free time. And then that gave me, I was so bored because there was nothing to do in the military that I started like buying these courses with the hard-earned money I made, and started reading marketing and sales books while all my other military members were watching basically K-pop girl bands shake their tails on TV. And so that's what I was doing. And when I got out of the military, I knew there was only one answer. I was like, you know, like I'm not at, before we went to military, I dropped out of university. So I knew I wasn't going back. And
Right.
I knew after military, I'm like, I'm not going to follow orders from people I don't respect. And so that's when I was like, well, logically, like it makes only one sense to kind of start that. So that's how I got started.
Wow. Okay. So what was your first entrepreneurial? So what do you do currently and what was your first entrepreneurial venture?
My first, man, I think my first one was I tried affiliate marketing on YouTube. And YouTube, I have so much respect for you, Quasi, because YouTube, man, that thing is a long-term game. And if you do not have patience and delayed gratification, then obviously you've seen like all the other people kind of start and they kind of stop.
Yeah.
And I did that for like a while, and it was really fun. But I was still trying to figure this thing out. I would like attend all these webinars and like all these things, and like I still couldn't figure it out. All I knew was that people were doing it, but I didn't really know how. So I didn't really have the answers. Tried buying some courses. The first money I ever made was from an affiliate sale somehow. My first, I still remember, it was like a $200 or $300. It was about, I think, March or April of last year, 2020. And I remember seeing that coming into my bank account. I was like, it's possible.
It's
Like
possible.
you can do it. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, you know, I think what helps us get started is like knowing and actually like seeing for yourself that it is possible. And so $200 is like nothing, right? But I'm just like, man, like you see that in my bank account. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I was like, and then after that, started coaching. Um, like I said, I didn't have all the answers. I just like duct taped like all these what I learned from books and these like cheap courses I bought. And like I started out as that. And then I got recruited to this marketing coaching company where I worked as an appointment setter and some marketing coach inside of the company. And I exited the company earlier this year. I was scared, not much money in the bank, but I was like, you know what? Let's start over again. And that's when I started. And with the knowledge, I'm so grateful from what I learned from the company and that experience, because everything I learned, I remember the moment I walked out of that job, my CEO, his name is Miles Stutz, so much respect for that guy. I remember him telling me that, Brian, you have everything you need to build a six-figure coaching business. So go make it happen. I was like, yes, sir. And then I made it happen. Um, and then I know it sounds like kind of simple to kind of put it that way, but it did happen. And then nowadays, what I do now is I help bigger companies now, bigger coaching companies making at least 40K a month, maybe like 100K a month, so on and so forth. Now I train their appointment setters to bring in more revenue for the company, because what I realized with a lot of these big companies, they're relying on like inbound and like ad strategies, but obviously ad costs going up.
Yep.
Or when they're running a lot of the inbound strategies like YouTube or so on and so forth, they're missing out on a lot of opportunities that people need a little bit of nudge. I feel like that's how we got in touch, and that's how I enrolled into Reality Mastery. Right? I watched the videos, but I never booked a call. But you just hit me in the DMs, help me, get over my fear a little bit, address some concerns, and then I was there, and you changed my life, right? And so that's what I realized. Like, there's a lot more people like that sitting on these people's YouTube subscribers, their email list, or whatever it may be. And that's when I come in. I train their appointment setters to kind of reach out to these people, address some of their concerns in a very human to human way, not like the sleazy way that we all get. And then, it's a win-win-win.
So out of all of the things that you've tried, which one did you resonate with the most? And I know this is an obvious like dodo question.
I don't know, man, because, well, here's the thing. Like, I really appreciate and respect coaches like you, Quasi, or some other people where, well, I don't know for you for sure, but like some people, they have such a strong purpose in what they do. They're like, I was born to coach this, right? I've met some dating coaches who have told me that, where like, I was born to help guys interact with women and so on and so forth, right? To be honest, like, I don't really have that. I just geek out on it. And so from what I do, I think I just like the process of playing at a bigger level and making an impact at a bigger scale. Because I just realized, like, as much as I want to say, like, I want to change the world, that's pretty arrogant of me to say, because I can't by myself. But what I can do is help these people who are legit, who are really good at what they do, and help them change more lives. And so I think that's what I like what I do now, because I play at a bigger scale and help these people at a bigger scale. And so I think so far, and also I just like geek out on this whole thing. It's funny because how I got started with personal development and business in the whole place was because I had to be very social and anxious. I was actually depressed, about to end my life, take my own life. And I came across these dating coaches on YouTube. They changed my life. And what I learned on the human psychology and the communication skills and interacting with women and people in person, I realized that a lot of it could be applied into the conversations, specifically messenger conversations you're having with potential clients. And so that part to me is pretty cool. So like I said, it's not like, I wake up out of my bed every day, like Tony Robbins, like, all that. I love Tony, but that's not what I do. But I do geek out on it, and it's pretty fun.
So you're saying that at this stage in your life now, you're basically enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, it's yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. Yeah.
So I guess, when you were working those 12-hour days, doing outreach every single day, trying to force it, versus now, like what's different now in your process versus back then?
I mean, like, tactics wise, obviously I've improved, right? But also I think it's funny because this year alone, like this year I think was like my biggest breakthrough year in terms of like all areas of my life, like dating and business. And I'm so grateful for you and everyone else who have helped me along the way. But you know, I've this year I've had periods where I was working only 3 hours a day. The rest of the day I was just like going on dates, hanging out with friends, and like it was cool. And I've also had like period in my life now where like I'm working more, right? I'm not working 12 hours, but like I'm still working more, and working with the new clients I brought on and like really building this thing. Um, it's funny because right now, like I don't feel that stressed because even today, like I was working quite a bit, pretty much all day. But I don't know. I don't feel that stress. I don't feel like it was forceful. So I think it's not about the hours you put in. I think it's about like the place you're coming from.
Mm,
Because I was always wondering, I was having this conversation with one of my friends, and I was like, Quasi talks about effort and surrender all the time, right? But if you look at people like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan, like they worked a lot of hours. So I don't get it. Doesn't that kind of contradict? Like they're putting in a lot of effort, but they succeeded. What happened? And then I kind of realized like, well, maybe it's an alignment thing where if they feel aligned. I remember Kobe talking about in an interview. He's still one of my childhood heroes. Kobe talking about, I'd rather be waking up at 3 in the morning, go to the gym, hit the tracks, hit the weight room, come back to the courts, shoot more shots, do that all day than anything else. And they love that. They love the game, right? And so I think that's the thing because now I feel more aligned with what I do, and I love the process more, and that allows me to not burn out, at least for now.
right.
And whereas if I did something I really hated, right, even if that was for like 3 hours a day, I would actually mentally feel more burnt out doing that than
Mhm.
working more, doing something you feel aligned with, if that makes sense.
Got it. So that's obviously a huge shift that happened from where you were back in August of 2020. So I guess what did you kind of take away from the program that helped you get more aligned, helped you understand, and overcome that binge eating and gain more self-awareness? I'm very curious to know that.
I think there are a few things. If we were to break it down, I think the one of the biggest thing was obviously surrendering. And you talk about the concept of knowing your sweet spots, right? Effort and surrender and knowing your sweet spot. I think that was the biggest thing because there is no specific answer. It's like kind of like riding a bike. Like how to teach someone to ride a bike. It's just like
Mhm.
you can't tell them to be like turn 5 degrees to the left. Like the
Right.
person's got to go on the damn bike. And so for me, I think it was great because you get to treat life like a video game where you get to see these quote unquote challenges or problems as a quote unquote test, right? I think one of the favorite sayings I got from you was that just pass the test and it'll manifest. And that was really life changing for me. Just because like this year and in the past year, like, life and business, it's not all sunshine or rainbows. Like things break all the time.
Yeah.
And in business, in your dating life, with your friends, with everything, right? And so what I realized was that, well, you can't avoid having these, non-ideal situations, but you can be like, there's a blessing in disguise. I think that was also a big concept, seeing that, in the program too, you talk about the advantage method. I know I'm
Mhm.
throwing a lot of these terms at people all at once, but, always seeing that whatever happens, like, okay, there's got to be like something like a blessing in disguise. Like, it's got to work. And usually if you change your perspectives that way, at least for me so far, it always turned out to be advantageous. Um, like with most things. And so yeah, understanding that like everything that happens is a blessing in disguise. Second thing is surrendering, and also the letting go concept. I remember telling you before enrolling into the program because I read the book by David Hawkins. I was like, dude, I read the book, but like I don't really get it. Like it didn't really help. So I think that's what really helps, having a mentor really helping you understand those concepts, and you give examples and things like that. And also on the Q&A call, I always drill you with like 5,000 questions
I
at the
remember
same
those.
time. Yeah, you're welcome. But those were that really helped a lot. Like, so like when I read the book, I didn't really get it. Once you kind of like helped understand the concept in the program and the coaching sessions, um I was slowly able to start to like observe my emotions or the emotions I feel, instead of being swallowed by it. Obviously, I'm not perfect right now, but a lot better now.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever those emotions pop up, I'm not distracted. Let's just say, a client texts you, say they want a refund, right? I would have been like, oh, God, why, why, right? But it's just like going back to the concept first, observing the emotions, understanding that, okay, like embrace it instead of before. What I'll try to do is like take out my phone and try to scroll through, try to distract myself or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and repress it and suppress it. Later it explodes. But now it's like, okay, sit there, feel the emotions, let it be there, let it dissipate. And then after that, seeing it as a blessing in disguise, like maybe there's a reason why this happens. I may not see it now, I may see it now, doesn't matter. It's all
Mm.
gonna work out. Life always goes my way. And so understanding those, and whenever, I hit that wall of putting in too much effort, just surrendering, taking a day off. I did that very recently where I was like really burnt out. And that actually gave me an opportunity to reevaluate my business and sell higher price packages. And so, like I said, going back to the blessing in disguise, like everything is a blessing in disguise. And so those concepts, like there's a lot, but I think those are like the key ones that I really took away. That was really like really transformative.
Very interesting, because I think that's a lot of like what most of our successful clients do. They start to process their feelings in a much healthier way, right? And sometimes I fall into this trap of, oh, just watch TV. Whenever you're feeling something, try to escape it by watching TV, by binge eating, or doing like scrolling through your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed incessantly. But if you just sit with it, even though it's painful at first, kind of like stubbing your toe, and you fully feel it, over time it dissipates and you get to a more emptier state where you can actually, reperspectivize it and look at it as a blessing in disguise. But in the moment, if you try to convince yourself like, no, 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 this is a blessing in disguise, without dealing with what's coming up, then it never works, right? Then you just end up resisting it and suppressing it even more. So this is something that I like to call accept and redirect. You accept, you sit with it, you let it run its course, and then you redirect it to what you want instead, what you'd like to see instead. And in that way, your life actually unfolds that way. So it's really awesome that you've taken that away, and it's also massive confirmation for me looking at that. But I guess in terms of your identity, how do you see yourself as a different Brian right now? Because I see you completely differently. I don't know if you see yourself and how differently you see yourself versus who you were back then.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to a buddy about this today as well. And yeah, like for me, because I see myself all the time, right? For me, it's just like I don't really see the changes. It's kind of like when you kind of gain weight or lose weight, you don't really see it, but like other people see it.
Yeah.
But people tell me that all the time, right? It's like I guess the way it's funny because in the self mastery guide, which you provide in the program, I remember like we kind of sculpt our new identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we write those down. And a lot of things, like I look back at my old self mastery guide and like, man, like a lot of things actually like happen. Like I've become that person. Same thing with a lot of the goals I've set. So it's kind of crazy, but I think that's the biggest thing because I keep learning, right? Because a lot of it's subconscious, meaning that like you talk about the concept of internal ceiling and internal floor, meaning that, like how we view ourselves, our self-image is like, oh, like I'm worth, making 5K a month or 10K a month, right? And like when you make more than that, like you somehow find a way to self-sabotage it, somehow find a way to spend more money or
Yep.
lose that money, like somehow. And when you go below it, you somehow find a way to get back up. Like you work more or like book more sales calls or whatever it may be. And so I think my internal ceiling was quite low, how I viewed myself. And a lot of it's subconscious. We think we know, but that is the dangerous part about the subconscious, right? Like we think we know, but the reality is we don't.
Right.
And so I didn't know this, but until recently, I just thought, because in my business, what I was helping people with was, I was helping clients that are about like 3 to 6K a month. And that was my identity. I didn't even know this until very recently, like last month or something like that. And it was incredible. I was able to help, people from like 3 to 6K a month, some barely making ends meet, get to 6 figures, multi-6 figures. It was incredible. I'm grateful for that. But also, I was settling because that was my self-image. I didn't know, but subconsciously I was like, okay, like I can only help people that were like less experienced than me in business because it was safer.
Mm.
It kept me safe. It was a protective mechanism. I didn't know it, but like I told you, like when I burnt out last month, when I took the day off, when I reevaluated, I was able to process that. So that's the power of surrendering. But when I realized that, I was like, man, so I scrap everything in my business, and then I, I reach out to, bigger companies, put out a new offer, and then it's an honor. It's awesome. That at first it's scary. Even being in personal development for like 5 years, I thought I didn't have that problem, that fear, the imposter syndrome. I think it always pops up. I have mentors who are at like multi-seven figures. They tell me the same thing, where like imposter syndrome pops up at like every revenue level. And that's what was happening. But eventually, as I work with these clients more, as I speak with these clients more who are already generating a lot of revenue in their companies, when you see confirmation, right? That was also the biggest thing I took away from the program, is that affirmations themselves, it's good to get started, but it's not really long lasting, because it's kind of like an empty eggshell. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, I am worthy of the 10K clients. But it's kind of like an eggshell where, like, if it drops to the floor, it cracks open into a million pieces.
Right.
And what really helps you cement those affirmations, and actually you don't have to convince yourself, but you just believe, and you just are those confirmations. And so when I saw proof of people signing up with me, and when I saw proof of people telling me, people, bigger company, business owners are telling me, well, you're the expert, Brian, so what do we do from here? When I saw that, when I got those confirmations, this is like your identity kind of levels up, I guess. And so I think that's what really helps for people watching. But yeah, long story short, the internal ceiling has increased. Obviously I'll probably hit the ceiling again, but that's good because it gives me an opportunity to go even further. So it's a never-ending process, but it's a beautiful journey.
Very interesting. So the process you're describing is essentially like coordination. Like you move one step, two steps. You take a step forward and you look at the terrain, and then you get accustomed to it, and then you look for confirmation of what you intended to be. And then you use that to take two more steps forward. And then like this, you just keep progressing more and more and consolidating this identity. You can't jump from like, being in middle school to go into a PhD. You go from middle school to high school to, college to PhD. Right. So it's all a progressive journey. So it's very, very interesting that you described that. Let's go back to that dating life aspect. I'm actually very curious to know, how has you becoming a different person not just affected your business and your revenue and, being more fulfilled and being able to work the hours you like, but how has it affected your relationships, whether this be romantic ones or even, familial relationships?
Yeah. So I think what I always try to do when I share my process and my journey is that I want to be as transparent and vulnerable as possible, because not that many people talk about that, and because it's uncomfortable, I get it, but I think it gives people a lot of inspiration and a lot of insight. So not only was I having a dry spell in my business before enrolling into Reality Mastery, I was having a dry spell in like all areas of my life, health, spirituality, and also dating. So in terms of my dating life, I hadn't had sex in 3 years. 3 years. I think it was more than 3 years, like 40
Bro,
months.
I actually love how vulnerable you are with that. Like, I was actually going to tell you, like, whenever you post, I see that you're like open to talking about that. I would be like, oh my God, like, did he just say that? And other people are like, oh my God, did he just say it? But I actually really respect your ability to like openly share this stuff, because it just shows a lot of emotional maturity.
Yeah, I appreciate you. And yeah, it is quite taboo to talk about in society, I think, but that was and not that many people talk about it, especially in the business space, right? And but that was a situation I was going through, and I was like, at the time, so humiliated, like so embarrassed to talk about. I told no one about it, and I was even afraid to reach out to, at the time, like I started generating some revenue, had some money saved up, right? So I was like, I was always thinking, like, before starting my business, I knew that once I started making some money, I was going to hire a dating coach, because I was going through that dry spell. Not only because, I wasn't having sex, the physical pleasure, but also, if any guys watching this, there's something different about having this like females around you, like the feminine energy. It's kind of hard to describe, but just like more at peace. It's like the energy is different, especially because
It
I was a
brings
very
life. It
effort.
brings life to you, you know? Like when I notice I'm at home and my wife is away, it's like life is like dry.
Yeah, I hear
It's
you.
just dry, you know? It's
Yeah,
lacking life is lacking life. That's how I feel. Like
yeah.
the feminine touch, it brings like something when it combines with the masculine, then creation or like harmony happens.
100%. And I mean, this might sound woo to a lot of people, and like I used to believe that too. But like as I get more learning about this whole energy thing, like using masculine energy is like very like go go go. It's like very like penetrative.
Penetrative.
Especially me because I was like military, like go massive action. So I was more tense. But what having women around me, like going on these dates and having female friends, what that allowed me to do was the fact that like it helped me calm down for God's sake. Like it helped me calm down because women, most women usually have like this very like welcoming, very like peaceful, calm energy. And that really helped a lot. So, but anyways, prior to that, obviously I was like very like tense. I remember like one of my buddies telling me, "You're like, dude, you just need to get laid, man. Like, you need to do something." I was like, maybe, but I was afraid to like. I had some options like what dating coaches I was gonna hire, but I didn't because I had ego. Because I was like, oh, on the sales call, they're probably gonna ask me like how many dates I'm going on and like when the last time I had sex, and like, oh, I feel kind of embarrassed. And then later at that moment, I was like, well, ain't nobody got time for that. You know, we all gonna die. So I reached out to one person, handed him 5 grand, paid in full. I paid in full like a good boy with no objections, and then enrolled into his program. And then incredible, very very great coach. His name is Danny Kim, and he's able to help me with my dating life. And then I was going on one point going on like 3 to 5 dates with different women a week, and you know, started having sex again, and it felt incredible, not just a physical sense like I mentioned, but also the fact that like I was also able to, you know, take these girls on like these fun dates, like going to amusement parks, or you know, taking them to cool cafes, like secret restaurants. And like I remember taking this one girl to the by the river. We were just having like pizza by the river, and you know, we see the sunset and we walk around, and she telling me at the end of the day, telling me that, man, that was the best date I've ever been on. Thank you so much. And things like that, the fact that I was able to like not only obviously like, you know, have physical pleasure, but also that I was able to give great experiences to these women. That was something, another identity that I kind of like leveled up and transcended, right? The fact that like, you know, the self-image and the identity I've become. Before I was like, I'm like, I subconsciously, I think I try to tell myself and affirm myself that I'm a confident person. But like when you have these confirmations, right, it actually solidifies and consolidates, like you say. And it actually consolidated, and you know, women were actually telling me that I'm attractive. At first I was like, well, you think I'm attractive, like, well, really? I wouldn't really say that, but like in my mind I would kind of be like, what? I was kind of like caught off guard.
It's almost surprising to you that someone would think you're attractive.
Exactly. And in person too, not just from my photos or whatever. And I was like, huh, interesting. I didn't know that. But later it becomes normal to you, because now it becomes your identity of like, you are an attractive man. You are a man who gives women incredible experiences. And so, yeah, in terms of dating, those things happening, it was incredible.
That is awesome. So when I look back at the sexless times and the revenue-less times, what I see is scarcity. And what I see is you viewing yourself as someone who's not deserving of all of those. And what I really see is just someone who's been excessively harsh on himself, just putting excessive pressure on himself because he doesn't feel that he's good enough. So I kind of want to ask you, where do you think that stemmed from? You know, where do you think that kind of conditioning, was it from the military, or because it's a habit, it's a conditioned way of thinking and viewing yourself. It might be, you know, a voice from our parent or a voice from our teachers when we were younger. Where do you think it stemmed from?
Very great question. And what I come to realize these days is that a lot of those quote unquote limiting beliefs, you know, the subconscious like self-image that we have, like what we think is possible, what we think is not possible, or our perspectives in life, what I realized a lot of comes down from like childhood. And my childhood background is that, so Asian parents, um and if anyone knows anything about Asian parents, you got to be perfect in every single thing. You got to be perfect at being perfect.
Nothing is ever good enough.
No, never, right? And so I think that was not just my parents, obviously, and they do their best. They do. I don't blame them at all. But also like my school teachers, my friends, especially South Korea. Um, man, South Korea actually, like, we have one of the world's highest suicide rate, just because, and a lot of them coming from high schoolers when they didn't. So we have this once a year. We have like a kind of like an SAT exam. It's a college entrance exam, and we have that once a year. Society's narrative, what society tells people, and from the news, from teachers, whatever, is that if you don't get, so there's like three universities in my country that are kind of like the Harvards, the Yales, and the MITs. So if you don't get into one of those top three schools, you basically have no future, and you won't get a good job. So you don't get to marry a good woman, and you won't get to have a family. So that's the narrative that society is putting into these kids. And so when they don't get the grade they wanted from the exam, unfortunately, every year, students in South Korea, these kids are like 17, 18, ending their lives because they literally think their life is over. And so because that's kind of the narrative that I've been surrounding myself with, that would be my guess. Obviously, a lot of it's subconscious, but like the fact that, like, you know, everything needs to be perfect or else you're a failure, right? And I think that was why I was so harsh on myself. And maybe, I think Tony Robbins said this: how you do one thing is how you do everything, because things bleed into different areas of your life, right? So it bleeded into how I do business, it bleeded into my dating life, it bleeded into like everything. And so I think that'll be my guess. Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good guess. I mean, we never know where anything comes from because memory is so fallible, right? But yeah, do you remember the module on pendulums in the program?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's these pendulums that we fall prey to.
Yeah, 100%. Social conditioning.
Social conditioning is the biggest one.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, but I guess it's interesting to see how you went from that place of scarcity to this place of abundance, where you're seeing flow happen in your business, seeing flow, life coming into your in your dating, and all of these other areas of your life. How about, yeah, I want to hear about the Europe story, because I remember on the call that we did, the consultation, the sales call, you mentioned one of your biggest goals was in 1 year from now, by July of 2021, you wanted to be traveling in Europe. And you turned out, it actually happened in June, a month earlier.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, what was the reasoning behind that goal? And how did that come about?
Dude, I'm getting goosebumps, like almost like, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. Like I'm almost like getting like tear up because, yeah, I just wanted to like thank you so much, Prazi, because on the call it seemed like a pipe dream. Everything seemed like a pipe dream. Everything I told you, right? I don't know what my revenue goal was. I think I told you like 10K, 20K a month, whatever, maybe. Um, and then I think I initially told you like I want to be living in London, the year like London. Really, I'm just like, well, anywhere in Europe, I want to go. And I remember writing down on my self mastery guide too, reading the thing, damn near every morning and every night. Almost I skipped some here and there, but I would look at that. I still look at that, and you know, it's just so crazy because I said I was gonna do it, and it actually happened. And the reason for being wanted to be in Europe, like I've always wanted to go. I've lived in America for a few years when I was younger, but like I've never been to Europe, and like I'll see all my friends, like backpacking through Europe and like having these cool stories, and like these European monuments seem cool. I love white women, and so Europe's amazing for that. And I don't know how though, because I'm just like, okay, first of all, I have no money. Second, the whole situation in the world happened, right? So I'm just like, I don't know if they're gonna let me in, and all these things. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen. But I told you last year that I would go. Okay, I'm in Europe by July 2021. Right? You're like, cool, man. I was like, cool. But I was like, I'm just like, I don't know, man. It seems like a pipe dream. I just like pulled it out of my hat. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Somehow it happened. By June, I was actually in Poland, in Europe. I still remember my feet bouncing off the streets of Warsaw, Poland, and I could not believe it. I'm just like, wow, it's like it's a simulation. It's a simulation. There's no way, no way. And I've had incredible, like I was so grateful. I'm having incredible experiences meeting. I love Polish women. They're incredible. Their mindset is in the right place. They're amazing. Um, and then I went to Spain. And then in Spain, what ended up happening was I'm just like, you know what? I was in Barcelona, which is like a beach city. I'll see all these like boats and yachts. I was like, they look cool. I'm gonna go on a yacht. And my buddy was next to me and just like, okay, he's kind of laughing at me because he thought I was joking. He's like, okay, cool. 2 days later, I was on a yacht. I I don't know how. I when I said I was gonna go on a yacht, he's like, how, man? I'm just like, you got money for that? Like yachts cost a lot. I was like, I don't know how. I'm gonna be on it. I was somehow on a yacht 2 days later, just 2 days later.
I think I
Right?
remember that picture. Is that your profile picture
Yeah.
somewhere?
Yeah.
It's a sick picture. I'm gonna try to include it in the edit.
Yeah, we can put it up somewhere or something like that. And just those things. Oh, I remember still in Korea. Oh, in Korea too. Early this year in April, I was like, you know what? By the end of this month, and I think my 3-year dry spell was still going on. So I still hadn't had sex in like 3 years, right? I'm like, you know what? By the end of this month in April, I'm gonna break my dry spell. I'm gonna have a sex with a woman, and that happened too. So all like there's like I have like 2 slides of this on my self mastery guide in a PowerPoint slide of like all like I call it a manifestation book, like all the things I've manifested. And it's just so insane how like I'm just like I said I was gonna do it and it actually happened. And so I used to this law of attraction and manifestation. I was like, get out of my face. Like that's so like fluffy woo woo.
You were the biggest skeptic. I remember that. And I'm also curious to know how this happened, like how you went complete like 180.
Yeah, on the consultation too. I was like, Quasi, I don't know how like all this works, man. Like I don't know about all this. And then until you see for your own eyes, it's kind of hard to believe it. I get it. And it's still kind of weird how all of this worked. But I think that's when unwavering faith comes into play, which is another concept that you talk about in the program, which is just like having the intention and you don't know how it's going to happen, but you just know. You're not even trying to convince yourself, but like deep in your soul, from your heart, you know it's going to happen.
You
And
just
then you
made a
figure out
decision. You made a decision that
yes.
it's going to happen. You don't care how or when it happens. You just made the decision that, you know what, it's going to happen.
Yeah. And then you somehow figure out the missing, like you talk about that concept. I was like, like the right answers come to you, the right tactics come to you, the right mentors come to you. That's kind of what happens. Like it's almost like, if anyone's ever seen the X-Men movie, there's a villain called Magneto who moves like these metal pieces from the air. That's kind of how it feels like, where like these things kind of come to you.
You villain.
And yeah, so like these things come to you, and that's kind of how things manifest and things happen. So some things aren't logically explainable. Wish I could with science. I mean, there's quantum physics behind it, obviously, but like it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome.
I mean, guys, if you're watching this, this is literally a testament of someone who was the biggest skeptic and the most closed off. There's someone who just wanted to give things a try because, this is what happens when you get pinned into a corner and you have no other options. You just give it a try and you really like, you give it the hope, the unwavering faith. You make the decision that somehow it's going to happen, and you just be open to receiving whatever's coming your way. And most of the times in our life, when we're pinned in that corner and we have no choice, that's when we become open. And when you become open to receiving, you receive. Somehow, one way or another, it does happen. And we've literally seen this in your scenario, man. I guess just some parting thoughts. What's next for Brian? What's next for this 2.0, 3.0, 4.0 version of Brian? Where's he moving next?
Great question. I mean, like physically wise, I'm in Korea now, and food's amazing here. But wintertime, probably either somewhere warmer, Southeast Asia, or Cape Town, South Africa. In terms of goals and vision, keep leveling up, keep helping bigger companies, help them change more lives, and live life. It's been incredible. I've actually been sharing your videos with some of my other friends who know nothing about this, and they're kind of like me, right? They're kind of like skeptics. They're like, yeah, but what's the science behind it? What's the logic behind it? But later they're like, they see my life, and they're like, how does all, like, they look at my life too, like all these things that happen, they're like, that makes no sense. So they start to believe it more, so they've been watching your videos more. So keep sharing the good word, and keep making the world a better place, and eating good food with good people, living the good life.
Amazing, man. So I guess some parting thoughts from you. If you were to speak to someone who was in that exact same position as you were in August of 2020, what would you say to someone who's on the fence about joining?
So, dude, I know it makes no sense. It makes no sense right now. But what other choices do you have? You tried the courses, you tried the programs, and you tried the massive action, and you tried all of it. It seems like something's missing. And maybe, just maybe, time to try something a little different. Time to try something a little different, but something that's also proven as well, you know? And it may be scary now, very scary. It's not, these decisions obviously not always easy, but with these leap of faith, when you have that unwavering faith, knowing that things will work out and you will find a way to work out, then something good might come out of it. Worst case scenario, you learn a lesson, and then life still goes on. So give it a shot. Why not? Why not?
Love it, man. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for coming and doing this interview. I'm going to insert your socials down in the description box below in the pinned comments too. If you guys wanted to check Brian out, go ahead and do so. But yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Till next time. Peace.